Woolworth Dollar Days. Look for big price breaks all over the store.
It's May Value Days at Woolworth, with savings for everyone.
Once a retail giant with stores across the globe, Woolworth's was a household name that shaped the way people shopped. Known for its five and dime deals and variety of goods, it revolutionized retail. However, behind its widespread success, the company faced mounting competition, outdated strategies, and shifting consumer behaviors. So, what truly led to the downfall of this retail giant? Join us as we look into the details of what really happened to Woolworth's history.
Darling? Not now. What? Easter eggs? Yes, I went to Woolworths on the way to my meeting with the chairman. Yes, all of them.
The story of Woolworth's began in 1879 with Frank Winfield Woolworth, a young clerk from New York who harbored an ambitious vision to transform the American retail experience. Frustrated by the rigid pricing models and unfriendly atmosphere of the traditional dry goods stores where he worked, Woolworth was inspired by the idea of a self-service store offering low-cost items with clearly marked prices. That year, he opened his first Great 5-cent store in Utica, New York. The experiment failed within weeks, but the idea was not discarded. Woolworth refined his approach and later that same year opened another store in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This time, a success that would lay the foundation for a retail empire. The Lancaster store embodied Woolworth's revolutionary retail philosophy. Unlike other stores of the time, where clerks retrieved goods upon request, Woolworth's allowed customers to browse freely, selecting products from tables stocked with clearly labeled 5 and 10-cent items. This self-service model not only reduced operating costs but also empowered customers, creating a new and enjoyable shopping experience. His emphasis on fixed pricing removed the discomfort of haggling, appealing particularly to working-class Americans. Bright window displays, wide product variety, and affordability quickly turned Woolworth's into a beloved destination for everyday goods. This five and dime concept was more than a pricing strategy. It was a cultural innovation. At a time when shopping was often seen as a utilitarian task, Woolworth's turned it into a casual, even pleasurable activity. The stores were accessible, friendly, and modern. With low overhead and high volume, the model proved scalable and immensely profitable.
It's May Value Days at Woolworth, with savings for everyone. There are lots of summer values. Great buys.
Frank Woolworth understood that the key to success wasn't in maximizing profits per item, but in maximizing foot traffic and repeat customers through affordable, quality goods. The early years were not without setbacks. After the failure of the Utica store, Woolworth faced skepticism from investors and family alike. Still, the profits from his Lancaster location allowed him to expand cautiously. By the early 1880s, he opened additional locations, often involving trusted family members or former employees as franchisees in what became known as friendly rivals. These independently managed stores operated under a loose alliance but maintained the same core principles: fixed low pricing, wide product selection, and a welcoming environment. This decentralized model initially fueled rapid expansion.
Woolworth Dollar Days. Look for big price breaks all over the store. You can save 25% on these cuddly blanket sleepers.
By 1889, Woolworth had built a loose but growing chain of over a dozen stores. He was not the only five and dime merchant, but he was arguably the most successful and innovative. His keen eye for popular merchandise, from kitchenware and toys to toiletries and seasonal decorations, kept inventory fresh and customers coming back. He also invested in design and store layout, understanding that ambiance was part of the shopping experience. Unlike the cluttered and dimly lit general stores of the past, Woolworth's outlets were clean, bright, and organized. In 1912, Woolworth consolidated his franchise network into a single corporation, F.W. Woolworth Company. This move brought over 500 stores under one corporate umbrella, making it one of the largest retail chains in the world at the time. It also marked the formalization of policies that had guided the company from the start: low fixed prices, self-service shopping, and an emphasis on customer satisfaction. That same year, construction began on the Woolworth building in New York City, a 60-story Gothic-style skyscraper that would become the tallest building in the world upon its completion in 1913. It was a bold statement of the company's success and ambitions, and Frank Woolworth paid for its $13.5 million cost entirely in cash, a testament to the profitability of his retail model. By the early 20th century, Woolworths had become a cornerstone of main streets across America. But how did a modest 5-cent store born in Pennsylvania evolve into a global retail powerhouse spanning continents?
Woolworth Stereo Spectacular 71, a fantastic once-a-year sale of albums, LPs, tapes, everything in stereo, unbelievably low priced.
By the early 20th century, Woolworths had evolved from a novel five-and-dime concept into a retail behemoth. After the formal consolidation of over 500 stores into the F.W. Woolworth Company in 1912, the brand entered what would be remembered as its golden age, a period marked by explosive growth, international expansion, and cultural influence. At its peak, Woolworths became one of the world's most recognizable retail names, with a presence on 4 continents and a reputation for both affordability and ubiquity. One of the most striking symbols of Woolworth's dominance was the construction of the Woolworth Building in New York City. Designed by architect Cass Gilbert, the skyscraper was completed in 1913 and stood 792 feet tall, making it the tallest building in the world at the time. Nicknamed the Cathedral of Commerce, it was funded entirely in cash by Frank Winfield Woolworth at a cost of $13.5 million. Clad in Gothic Revival style, the tower was not just an office headquarters, it was a statement of Woolworth's vision, confidence, and financial success.
Value and selection at Woolworth are a back-to-school tradition. Save now on a 48-function student calculator, just $13.99.
The building housed corporate operations and stood as a landmark of American capitalism and modern retail might. The company's domestic growth during this era was equally impressive. By the mid-1920s, Woolworths operated over 1,000 stores across the United States. These locations were strategically placed in both urban centers and rural towns, ensuring the brand became a fixture in the daily lives of millions of Americans. The stores were known for their uniform appearance, clean interiors, friendly service, and an ever-changing mix of merchandise, which ranged from school supplies and cosmetics to clothing, toys, and household essentials. Seasonal items, in particular, helped keep foot traffic high throughout the year. Woolworth's success in the United States provided the momentum for international expansion. In 1909, the company launched its first overseas store in Liverpool, England, under the leadership of former American employee William Stevenson. The British public responded enthusiastically to Woolworth's fixed-price model and diverse product offerings. Despite challenges, such as adapting to different consumer tastes and navigating fluctuating exchange rates, Woolworths quickly gained a foothold in the United Kingdom.
The board of Woolworths Group plc met this evening and agreed that administration was the only option. History will record that after 99 years of trading, it was the recession of 2008.
By the 1930s, it had become one of Britain's largest and most beloved retailers. Following its success in the United Kingdom, Woolworths extended its reach to Canada in 1924. The first Canadian store opened in downtown Toronto and quickly replicated the United States formula of affordable, fixed-price goods. The Canadian division would go on to open hundreds of locations nationwide, becoming an integral part of Canada's mid-century retail scene. Customers appreciated the consistency of experience, no matter the location. In Mexico, Woolworth's first store opened in 1956. There, it adapted to local consumer preferences while maintaining the brand's core identity of affordable variety. The Mexican branches often featured local suppliers and culturally tailored inventory, contributing to their success and longevity. Woolworths Mexico, unlike many of its international counterparts, continued operating successfully well into the 21st century, even after the stores in the United States closed. Australia also welcomed Woolworths in 1924, though with a twist. The Australian Woolworths was a separate entity unaffiliated with the American company, despite sharing the name. Nonetheless, it adopted a similar retail philosophy, starting as a basement bargain store and evolving into a major supermarket chain.
Woolworths is slashing prices on hundreds of popular products in the battle for your supermarket dollar, but it's not clear if it will make a difference.
Although not directly tied to F.W. Woolworth Company, its growth paralleled the American Woolworth's influence and highlighted the global resonance of the five and dime retail model. Back in the United States, Woolworths expanded aggressively through the 1940s and 1950s, bolstered by the post-war economic boom. The stores not only served as essential shopping destinations, but also began to include lunch counters, offering affordable meals in addition to retail goods. These counters became iconic in their own right and were later the site of pivotal civil rights protests, such as the Greensboro sit-ins in 1960, which began at a Woolworths in North Carolina and helped galvanize the movement against racial segregation in public places. By the 1960s, Woolworth's empire included more than 2,000 stores worldwide and had diversified into new markets, including specialty retail and discount department stores. It launched Kinney Shoes, a popular footwear chain, and ventured into sporting goods, clothing, and electronics. The company also acquired other retailers, including the British shoe chain Bata and the clothing store Richmond Brothers, aiming to capture a broader market. With such remarkable global success, what started to challenge the once unstoppable rise of Woolworths?
Every week, we compare prices with other supermarkets to see who's really got the best deals. And every week, it seems to be right here, Woolworths.
As Woolworths enjoyed the height of its global success during the mid-20th century, a new wave of retail transformation was already beginning to reshape the commercial landscape. The once innovative five and dime chain began to show signs of stagnation, failing to adapt to the dramatic shifts in consumer behavior, retail strategy, and market competition. By the 1980s and 1990s, the very foundations that had built Woolworth's empire were now cracking under pressure as the company struggled to maintain relevance in a fiercely evolving marketplace. Big box retailers like Walmart, Target, and Kmart disrupted Woolworth's dominance with lower prices, vast suburban stores, and efficient supply chains. Their large-scale operations and direct sourcing attracted cost-conscious shoppers, while Woolworth's smaller, outdated downtown locations struggled to compete with the convenience and pricing of these aggressive discount giants. Walmart, founded in 1962, the same year Woolworths launched its discount division Woolco, soon outpaced its predecessor in almost every metric. Sam Walton, Walmart's founder, took inspiration from Woolworth's early pricing model but applied it more aggressively, emphasizing volume sales and logistical excellence.
In the countdown to the final closure, every single thing was for sale, including the staff lockers.
Walmart's sophisticated inventory systems and centralized distribution hubs enabled rapid restocking and lower operating costs. Woolworths, by contrast, relied on older supply networks and was slower to adopt emerging retail technologies, making it increasingly inefficient in comparison. Simultaneously, consumer habits began to shift. The rise of suburban living, dual-income households, and time-conscious shoppers meant that customers were less interested in browsing through aisles of miscellaneous small goods and more inclined toward one-stop shopping experiences. Traditional five and dime stores, with their eclectic assortment of low-cost items, began to feel outdated in an age of streamlined purchasing and specialized retail environments. Consumers wanted larger selections in specific categories, better deals, and quicker service, needs that Woolworth's stores, often cramped and aging, struggled to fulfill. The suburban mall boom of the 1970s and 1980s offered Woolworths a chance to adapt, but its execution faltered. Store layouts remained outdated, product categories were disorganized, and brand identity weakened. While specialty retailers like The Gap and even its own subsidiary, Foot Locker, thrived, Woolworth's core stores lagged.
The sheer number of jobs that are being lost, 27,000 people will be out of work as a result of these store close-downs.
Financial struggles mounted as the company maintained too many small-format stores and failed to modernize effectively. Its Woolco chain, created to rival Walmart and Kmart, suffered from operational inefficiencies and was fully shut down in the United States by 1983. By the late 1980s, Woolworths leaned on specialty stores like Foot Locker, whose success highlighted the growing irrelevance of the five and dime model, raising doubts about Woolworth's long-term viability. By the 1990s, the company's financial position had deteriorated significantly. Quarterly losses became common, and store closures accelerated. In 1993 alone, Woolworths shuttered nearly 400 underperforming locations in an effort to cut costs and refocus its retail strategy. The stores that remained faced an uphill battle: shrinking foot traffic, rising rent in downtown locations, and outdated store designs left Woolworths unable to compete with newer, leaner rivals. Further complicating its struggles was the failure to carve out a coherent brand identity in the modern era. While Walmart was synonymous with low prices and scale, and Target marketed itself as cheap chic, Woolworths languished in a state of ambiguity. It was no longer the innovative disruptor of the late 19th century, and it had failed to redefine itself for the 21st century. As competition intensified and consumer habits shifted, how did Woolworths confront, or fail to confront, its looming decline?
Down for the last time at Glasgow's last remaining Woolworths stores, including this one in Argyle Street, one of the city's biggest. Bargain hunters are out trying to snap up the last of the goods, although there really wasn't much left on the shelves.
By the mid-1990s, the Woolworths name, once synonymous with retail innovation and affordability, had become a shadow of its former self. Despite over a century of presence on American main streets and in shopping malls, the company's traditional five and dime stores had failed to evolve in a way that resonated with contemporary consumers. After years of declining revenue, store closures, and failed reinvention attempts, the F.W. Woolworth Company made a landmark decision in 1997 to permanently shut down its remaining department stores in the United States. It was the end of an era and the beginning of a dramatic transformation. On July 17, 1997, Woolworths announced the closure of its last 400 general merchandise stores in the United States. These closures resulted in the loss of approximately 9,200 jobs and marked the final chapter for a retail model that had once revolutionized consumer shopping. The announcement was not made lightly, but it had become clear that the core Woolworths brand was no longer viable in the face of modern discount giants like Walmart and Target. Decades of brand dilution, outdated stores, and a lack of cohesive identity had rendered the once pioneering chain obsolete.
But it is too late for Woolworths, as you just heard, and it closes for good today. Lorna Gordon is outside one of the last stores in Glasgow. Very sad. It made almost a century on the high street.
Attempts to revitalize the Woolworth name with updated layouts, rebranding campaigns, and merchandise diversification had all failed to reverse the downward trajectory. Instead of dissolving completely, the company chose to pivot. The closure of the five and dime stores cleared the path for Woolworth to refocus its efforts on its most successful subsidiaries, primarily its growing chain of athletic footwear stores. This pivot led to the birth of the Venator Group, a new corporate identity established in 1997 to house the company's surviving retail brands, including Foot Locker, Champs Sports, and Eastbay. The name Venator was derived from the Latin word for hunter, symbolizing the company's pursuit of growth in the sporting goods and footwear sectors. Foot Locker, which had been launched by Woolworth in 1974, emerged as the flagship brand. While Woolworth department stores had failed to capture younger consumers, Foot Locker thrived by aligning itself with the booming sneaker culture of the 1990s and early 2000s. Strategic partnerships with major athletic brands like Nike and Adidas, as well as a strong presence in malls and urban centers, helped Foot Locker outperform its legacy parent.
Can I help you?
Maybe. You see, I'm into running, tennis and basketball, soccer, baseball, racquetball, hurdling, and I need shoes.
By the early 2000s, it had become clear that the company's future lay entirely in athletic retail. In 2001, the transformation was completed when the Venator Group officially changed its name to Foot Locker, Inc. The rebranding marked the final symbolic break from the Woolworth identity. No longer tethered to its five and dime origins, the company leaned fully into the performance footwear market. Ironically, the corporation that once defined American variety retail now survives as a niche, specialized chain, albeit a successful one. The foundation of Woolworths remains embedded in Foot Locker: standardized layouts, customer-focused service, and a keen understanding of market demand, albeit tailored to a new generation. While Woolworths disappeared from the United States, its name endured across the Atlantic, until it didn't. Woolworths Group in the United Kingdom, which had operated independently since being spun off in the 1980s, experienced a prolonged decline during the early 2000s. Though the British Woolworths had long enjoyed cultural significance, particularly for its pick-and-mix sweets and Christmas promotions, it struggled to compete with supermarkets, e-commerce platforms, and more agile retailers.
Always looking for a bargain, and one supermarket giant is prepared to do something to help your grocery list dollars go further. Woolworths is set to slash prices on hundreds of items.
Product ranges were unfocused, pricing was inconsistent, and management frequently changed direction, creating instability within the brand. The 2008 global financial crisis delivered the final blow. In November 2008, Woolworths Group in the United Kingdom entered administration with debts of £385 million. A failure to secure emergency financing or a buyer forced the company to shut down its 807 stores across the United Kingdom, resulting in over 27,000 job losses. The closures, completed by January 2009, were met with public dismay, as generations of British shoppers mourned the loss of a familiar high street presence. Despite efforts by other companies to revive aspects of the Woolworths brand online, the original retail chain never returned. Interestingly, Woolworth operations in other countries outlived both their American and British counterparts. In Mexico, for example, Woolworth stores continued to operate under local ownership, adapting successfully to regional demands. Similarly, in Germany and South Africa, retailers using the Woolworths name, unrelated in structure but inspired by the brand's legacy, found ways to stay profitable by diverging from the outdated five and dime template and embracing local market trends. Even after its dramatic fall, could the spirit and name of Woolworths find ways to endure around the world?
A broad range of products and a broad range of savings. The average comes out at about 10%, but this is 10% on items that customers buy frequently in their weekly shop.
Although Woolworth's department stores vanished from American streets in 1997, the Woolworth name has not entirely disappeared. In a twist of commercial survival and regional adaptation, Woolworth-branded retail operations still exist and even thrive in parts of the world. The company's legacy persists in various forms, through surviving stores overseas, corporate descendants like Foot Locker, and enduring cultural nostalgia that keeps the Woolworths memory alive in public consciousness. One of the most visible remnants of the Woolworth brand today is Woolworth GmbH in Germany and Austria. Unlike the United States original, the German division was founded in 1927 as a subsidiary of the F.W. Woolworth Company, but gradually became more autonomous. After the American parent company divested in the 1990s, the German branch faced financial difficulties and declared insolvency in 2009. However, it was subsequently acquired by the Tengelmann Group and restructured. Rather than fading into retail history, Woolworths Germany experienced a surprising revival.
Good afternoon. Woolworths is promising meaningful relief at the checkout, announcing a price drop on hundreds of products.
It repositioned itself as a discount variety retailer with a focus on household goods, apparel, and seasonal products, lean, affordable, and efficient. By the 2020s, Woolworths Germany was expanding aggressively, with over 600 stores and ambitious plans to reach 1,000 locations by 2025. Its Austrian operations, reintroduced in 2021, follow a similar model. Crucially, the German Woolworth brand has successfully adapted to contemporary consumer expectations: clean layouts, private label merchandise, and a focus on value, without the clutter of outdated five-and-dime aesthetics. Though distinct from its American predecessor, it retains the Woolworths name and core philosophy: accessible variety for everyday shoppers. In Mexico, Woolworths stores have also endured. Introduced in 1956 by the original American corporation, the Mexican division became independent in the late 1990s following the United States closures.
Whether we're being ripped off, we don't have too many choices.
We used to be Woolworths shoppers. We were spending $300 a week on not a lot.
Operated by Grupo Commercial Control, Woolworths Mexico has evolved into a mid-size retail chain that caters to local tastes while preserving its traditional variety store roots. Stores offer a blend of clothing, electronics, homeware, and seasonal items, often located in urban centers and malls. Unlike the outdated Woolworths of 1990s America, the Mexican version remains vibrant and relevant, serving millions of customers annually. Meanwhile, Woolworths in Australia and New Zealand represents a different branch of the legacy. Despite the name, these supermarkets were never affiliated with the original American Woolworth Company. Woolworths Limited, now known as Woolworths Group, was established in Sydney in 1924 and chose the name for its perceived commercial appeal. Nevertheless, the Australian Woolworths developed into a retail powerhouse in its own right, becoming the country's largest supermarket chain. Its New Zealand counterpart operates under the same brand and similarly dominates the local grocery market. These supermarkets have successfully modernized, offering online delivery, loyalty programs, and competitive pricing models.
Staff arriving for work in Castleton are among 27,000 who face losing their jobs.
It's very upsetting since I'm an employee, so I'm just going to go in now. I don't want to say anymore.
While their connection to the original Woolworths is nominal, they've inherited a similar reputation: consistent, convenient, and familiar to generations of shoppers. In an ironic twist, the Woolworths name in Australia and New Zealand now holds more recognition than the brand that inspired it. Beyond the stores still operating, Woolworths holds a significant place in the cultural imagination, especially in the United States and the United Kingdom. For many Americans, Woolworths evokes memories of soda fountains, lunch counters, holiday decorations, and everyday purchases that defined childhoods. The company's role in civil rights history, particularly the 1960 Greensboro sit-ins, has cemented its place in the social and political narrative of the United States.
Passers-by from Castleton were also saddened by news of Woolworth's demise.
I don't work here, but I think it's terrible. It'll just kill Castleton and that'll be it, and that's all we've really to say, you know.
A preserved section of the original Greensboro Woolworths now forms part of the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. In the United Kingdom, where Woolworths operated independently after the 1980s, its sudden collapse in 2008 sparked a wave of public nostalgia. People mourned the loss of its pick-and-mix sweets, music aisles, and back-to-school stationery sales. In discussions of retail history, many ask whether Woolworths could ever return. While unlikely in its original five-and-dime form, the brand's core ideas, affordability, accessibility, and variety, have found new life in chains like Dollar General, Five Below, and even Amazon's third-party marketplaces. These modern equivalents fulfill many of the same functions Woolworths once did, just with updated technology and formats. The name Woolworths may no longer grace American downtowns, but its echoes remain worldwide, in living brands, in memories, and in the evolution of retail itself.